All right. So it says we're live. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Gonna get this party started here. Let's see, where are we at? Where are we at? All right. It's public. You guys should be hearing my audio. You should be seeing me. I think we're good to go here. So I'm going to just hang out for a bit here. I decided, I know that I promised you guys a long time ago, I was going to offer open reviews, open feedback, and it's been a long time since I've been able to do that. And so today I'm actually going to do that, but I just need to make sure that everything's working first before we... Okay. Timothy, what's up? I'm guessing you can see me and hear me, right? Welcome, everyone. Sorry, this is going to be a rough start to a live stream. I have to just make sure that everything's running here. I have a few different systems I want to put together for this particular live stream. All right, cool. We got 80 of you guys watching, so you guys can hear me. You guys can see me. Awesome. So here's my, for you early birds, you guys are going to get like the sort of the early start on this. So congrats, you guys are going to get in on this. So I'm going to be offering open reviews, free reviews on your guys' tracks. Now it's just going to be one track per person. And it's only going to last for the duration of this live stream. So I'm not going to get 1,000, tracks and then later on have to review them all. So if you're tuning in live and you're one of my loyal subscribers that are watching me live, you can get some free feedback, syndicate member or not, doesn't matter who you are. All you need to do, and it's in the description below, is just email me, Jesse, Jesse, at syncmymusic.com. Send me a link. It can be Dropbox, YouTube, SoundCloud. No MP3s. Don't send me any attachments. Don't send me anything that I have to download to listen to. If you send me some sort of a process where I can actually just stream your MP3 or your WAV file, that's fine. But don't force me to have to download anything to listen to your music. And I will not reveal any of your contact info, so I won't show anybody your email address. I have that all in a different window, so none of that's going to be exposed. But your music will be obviously played here on the stream. So you have to be comfortable with, potentially, I don't know how many people are watching now, 18 people listening to your song. Now, I am going to be gentle. I'm not like a cruel person on people's music, but I am tough, and I will tell you exactly what's not working, but I will also give you some ideas and suggestions for how to make your track stronger. Okay, so that's my promise to you. So while I'm waiting for some of you guys to email me those links, send me some stuff, I'm going to go actually get a cup of coffee brewed. I had my first cup already, but I'm ready for my second one. So I wanted to just get this started, let you guys know about this, and then as I'm waiting for a couple of these links getting sent my way so I can give you guys some feedback, I'm going to go get my coffee started. So email me, send me your music, and hopefully by the time I get back, I have a couple of tracks I can start reviewing. So hang tight. I will be back in a minute or two. The email address again. Yeah, let me just put this actually here. syncmymusic.com. Email me one track to review. Links only. No attachments. Syncmymusic.com. Email one track to review. Links only. All right. So that should work for you guys. You guys should have that now. So I shall return in just a moment. So, all right. Don't let me down, guys. Send me a couple of tracks. All right. Let's see if anybody sent me something yet. We still live? All right, good. I want to come back to a dead stream here. Nothing yet, but let me just double check and make sure that it's not in my settings. There we go. There's my settings. Sometimes I have to like manually go, and I have so many different email accounts that go into my Gmail that I have to go make sure that everything's being checked. ASAP. Expands out to all genres. Yeah, any genre. Send me anything. Of course, everything that I'm going to tell you guys is going to relate to music licensing, though. So, you know, if you send me some original music, some artist music, I'm going to tell you what I think it can do in terms of music licensing. So that's really what I know. Okay, so if you ask me, is this a hit song? I don't know. I've never written a hit song. There we go. Lots of tracks already coming through here. So. Awesome. Yeah, I got a lot of you guys. So I'm just going to give you guys his first name so you guys know, and you hear the track and you'll know that it's your track. So Devin, you are the first one. So let's go ahead and open up this track here. And as my coffee is brewing, you get the first review. So let's take a listen. You know, it's an interesting rhythm you have there. It almost threw me off in the beginning because you have this almost triplet feel to the guitars. It just feels like it's a little bit of that like triplet feel. And then when your drums come in, it's like obviously that sort of smooth, cool hip hop feel. But when they start coming together, it actually does work. It's just kind of this interesting sort of combination. Yeah, LA Frog pointed out polyrhythms. It's like you got two different rhythms, but they do actually work in a way. So in terms of originality, like really, really cool. High levels of really great sounding samples, very original sounding too. And I do think the other thing that's working great for your mix here is that you're adding new elements every 4 bars, 8 bars. You're adding a new sort of, you know, maybe a new lead, or you have some of these kind of weird reverse sounds coming in. So you're adding interest and building some interest in your track, and you're not just looping it throughout it. Even though that being said, there is a bit of, I feel like we're kind of hearing the same thing underneath the whole time. And even when we drop out for this little breakdown, turnaround part, I feel like we should maybe go into a completely different direction, because I can tell I would get a little bit tired of hearing the same sort of progression throughout the entire track. So just my 2 cents on this would be definitely in the right direction, definitely licensable. It's a little bit more on the mellow side, which if you've been watching me for a while, you know that I have to say mellower, down-tempo music. There is some use for that, but most of the placements you're going to see are in the mid-tempo to high-tempo, higher energy, party music, energetic music, aggression, tension, that kind of stuff. Like those are typically the energies that get a lot more use. So you just want to make sure that, I mean, if you love doing this stuff, keep doing it, but also think about incorporating a little bit more, you know, energy into the track, a little bit more up-tempo, you know, that you can do it in many different ways. But I love the sound. I love where you're going with this. It's really smooth. It's really, I think emotionally it also it's kind of like reflective in a way, and it kind of has this sort of like, you know, looking back on something or thinking about something, like deep pondering thought in a way, or even like reminiscing about childhood memories or something like that. Maybe a little bit of romantic in there as well, but it's got this really cool just emotional vibe to it, so I really like that. So like as I go through the entire track, I just keep hearing that same boom boom dun 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 dun. You know, it's that same thing over and over and over again. So I think maybe even composing new progressions, you know, doing like 2 different or 3 different riffs basically, and go from, you know, A to B, maybe back to A, then to C, back to B, back to A, right? You can have these different ways you can put it together, but just adding a little bit more interest and changes throughout it would help add the interest, so we won't get stuck on the same progression. You know what I'm saying? All right, Timothy, you are number 2. You got a SoundCloud link here. So I like the intensity. I like where you're going with it, and it's kind of got this, it's sort of a mashup between an EDM song and a trap song. I feel like with those slow, heavy drums, or at least the pattern you're going for, I definitely hear more of the trap influence. My issue with this would be the sounds that you're using. They feel very soft. Everything feels very soft. It's like almost everything has its edges sort of rounded out. So the snare's not really hitting hard enough. The kick's not hitting hard enough. Those synths aren't really hitting hard enough. Everything just feels very, you know, it's just very soft sounding. And this has got like the intensity and energy of a really aggressive track, actually. You know, it's really heavy, actually. It's even got a little bit of a rock feel to it. But the synth you're using, the sounds that you're using are not delivering that intensity. So I'm hearing a mismatch. It's not delivering. It's basically idea-wise really cool. Execution-wise, it's not there. It's got to be harder, heavier, more dynamic, and more aggressive sounds and synths that you're using to kind of give a little bit more of that energy. That shaker is really loud in your mix, just so you know. It's like 6 dB, probably too hot or even more, so it's really coming out. And even I think just all your drums in general, this part really are taking over the entire mix, and all of your other instruments are really, really far down there. They're like buried. Yeah, like I want to hear something heavy and dark on the low end, like bah, you know, like really get into that kind of rock phase a little bit. You could even maybe stack up a distorted guitar with like a, I don't know, a growling, grungy kind of a synth or something like. But I want to hear a little bit more of that low end aggression. Always remember that the energy and the aggression and the sort of the punchy like energy that you probably want in your track always comes from the low end. That's where those low frequencies are so important. High frequencies can get you crispness and sharpness and, you know, all that good stuff. But if you really want that, you know, that real heaviness, that like almost like weight, like you feel like you're moving the earth underneath your feet, it's all the low frequencies. So just make sure you add a little bit more of that in your mix. I think that's the one thing I'm not hearing so much of here. Hearing a little bit of a conflict. You've got these two different leads going on, bum, 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 and then you have these half steps on the right, dun, 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 or whatever it's doing over there, and those are conflicting. And the metaphor I always use is think about your track as a play. And if you have two lead actors, what do they always do? They usually take turns. This guy talks for a while, and then that guy talks for a while. You don't have two actors talking at the same time and conflicting with each other about what they're saying, right? That would confuse the audience. Same thing in music. If you have a lead instrument and it's just one, obviously let that lead take the center stage. But if you have two, usually a call and response is the better way. Bum, 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 dun, 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 bum, bum. So they're going back and forth, right? It's a conversation rather than a jumble of a bunch of different stuff going on the top. So that's where I'd say with yours, that's kind of some of the bigger things that I'm hearing. All right, moving on. Luchito, you are the next one. You got a YouTube link for me. Thank you guys. You guys are all following directions so far, so that's great. Beautiful music here. Sorry, I forgot your name already. Luchito. Very beautiful music. I do want to hear a full band though. I love the guitar work. I love what you're doing with the piano, but I kind of want to hear a nice little, you know, light drum. Well, basically just a kick and a light little snare roll. You know, just something that kind of rolls us along here. And maybe hear a nice low bass, a stand-up bass, you know, a nice warm boom, boom, some bass line that kind of just follows along with this chord progression. But I love what you're doing with it. It's a beautiful sound, and it's definitely licensable. You just need to make sure that you find a library that is in need of this kind of a sound, and usually how you can find that out is if you look through their catalog, you can see, hey, they have a lot of placements that use this kind of music, and sometimes libraries will show off what kind of placements they've been getting recently, and you can kind of see that. Or you can look through the catalog and say, hey, they have a lot of this acoustic indie folk kind of music. That's because they probably need a lot of it for their clients. So partnering with the right library, you can find some great stuff with this style, but I would always go for a full band, because you can always strip out the drums and bass and give them just the acoustic version, right? That's easy. That's a couple of buttons away. But usually they're going to also want, hey, we want the fully produced track. Give us that full track, right? So I just always recommend you guys do that. Always go for the full production. And if you ever need to strip it back down for anybody, they say, hey, we would just want the piano, or we just want the acoustic guitar, a couple of buttons. That's all you got to do. But it's not as easy just to turn on, oh, you need the full band. I can't click a button to do that. I have to produce that, right? So just start with a fully produced track, and you'll you know, stay clear of some issues that way. Luchito, you want to know what genre would you call this? I mean, this is, you know, folk. This is indie. It could be indie folk. You know, it's, I don't know if I call it Americana. It's, you know, acoustic, just the acoustic guitar. Those strings are feeling a little bit out of place right now, just how they're, I think a fiddle probably would have been a better choice, because those strings are obviously more an orchestral choice from an orchestra. But usually when you hear just a single guitar and the piano, how it is now, you think of a small, tiny little band. So I'd probably want to hear more of a fiddle or just a single string. This sounds like a kind of a, you know, quartet or, you know, something like that going on with those strings. And that was an interesting slowdown. I would advise against slowdowns like that. They're usually not that useful in the licensing business, only because if they like the groove of it and it's working under a scene, if you slow down the tempo, well, now it doesn't work with the scene, because the scene might be just working at a certain tempo, right? So I would usually, I mean, unless you're requested to do this, and I don't think I've ever been requested to change tempos. I gotta think, but I don't think so. Unless you're specifically requested to change tempos in your production, don't ever do it. Just keep it at the same tempo the entire time through. Make sure you're on the grid, get yourself on that nice BPM, and develop the track that way. Slowing down, speeding up, that usually will run into problems for you with the music library. So. Yeah, you're saying you're slow down your guitar playing a little bit. Yeah, I would keep it all at the same tempo, just how you normally would play the whole time through. That's just the way to go. But definitely create a full track. That's the way to get out of this thing, to make sure you have the best chances of getting accepted. So, all right, Zabby, you are next up, and I'm going to go grab my coffee. So we are going to be right back. I'm not going to play it until I get back. 1 second. Now I'm ready to go here. Zabby, let's get started on yours. All right, I like where this part's going. That first part seemed really strange to me. It was kind of experimental, and it was doing some weird pitch modulations. I probably would just cut that entire thing out. It just didn't seem like it was related to this. So where it's going now, though, feels a little bit more focused, like we're in a certain genre here. Okay, so it's taken a long time to finally get into the music. You know, we're already, what is that, 48 seconds in? And I feel like we should already be at the chorus. We should already be somewhere. So it's a really long intro. I would shorten that down significantly. Also, these lead sounds that you had, they felt pitchy and kind of like sounding like what you had going on in the intro, which was like this pitch modulated sort of a weird thing going on. And it really felt out of place because those chords you're doing on the bottom, I love them. They actually remind me a lot of Cascade. I used to be in the Cascade big time, progressive EDM producer. And it kind of had a little bit of that feel. But then when those whatever those things were, they felt really chaotic, right? Now you have this really smooth, cool progression underneath, and then you have chaos on top. So we have conflict already in the track. And so that makes me feel, I don't know where to go with this track. Is this aggressive? Is it chaotic? Is it smooth? Is it cool? So it's kind of schizophrenic right now. It's kind of going in too many different directions. But we'll go through your track a little bit more and see what else is going on. So your lead is like dominating this entire mix. It's like, and then I can hear your bass and drums like way back there in the background. So I think we just need to get a little bit more balance with the mix so that we feel a little bit more of that kick and that bass. The sound also of that lead, it might be just that it's so loud in the mix that I'm not liking it so much, but that sound isn't doing much for me. It's really piercing. It's kind of like actually a little bit annoying sounding. It's not giving me a nice, pleasant feel. It can be aggressive. You can have that sort of like sharpness to your lead, but that particular sound, there's just a lot of piercing frequencies in it that are making me not want to listen to the track, just to be honest with you. The kick and the bass and the drums underneath feel really good. Like I can tell those are really tight and they're pounding and they're driving and they're really working well together. So I kind of want to hear more of that low end and something maybe more fuzzy, I guess, for the lead. Maybe not as piercing, if that makes sense. So something a little bit more like a buzzsaw kind of a sound. Yeah, and those high pitched bells right there are really piercing as well. So you got to look out for those kind of frequencies. You got to make sure you're not assaulting the listener so much with those high frequencies. You got to be, what usually you want to go find where they are and scoop them out of those certain tracks so that you're not doing that. Yeah, same thing for this part. These chords feel like kind of not really following the key of the track, so we're kind of, again, losing focus. Your choruses felt the most focused. I think that was the part where this track really felt the most like kind of an aggressive EDM track, and then now we're kind of, again, wandering a little bit too far off the range a little bit. So we need to probably stick a little bit closer to one specific defined genre, and obviously the key that you're in and all that good stuff. Try to keep things a little bit more focused that way. So that would be my main feedback for you, Zabby. But glad that it was helpful, man. But I like where you're going with it. Absolutely. It reminded me again of the kind of EDM stuff I used to listen to a while back. Okay, Reniel, you gave me a Spotify link, which I don't know if I can do it because I don't have. Can I listen to this? Sorry, Reniel. If you want to send me another one, I don't have Spotify, so I can't open that up and listen to that. Stefan, you have one. Let me see if I can just play this one right here. Yep, here we go. So your horns, the strings don't feel so bad. I think they can be a little bit wetter. I think a little bit more reverb would help. They feel like everything feels a little too dry, and it's giving me the synthetic fake keyboard string sound to it. So in terms of it like stacking up to the competition out there for orchestral stuff, it's got to feel a lot more realistic, okay? And a lot of that can be done with some mixing, adding some reverb, trying to make sure that your strings sound like they're in a big chamber together, right? Like a big concert hall together. Right now it's so dry that it literally just sounds like you were in your studio playing on your keyboard for them. The horns are the biggest offender, though. When those horns came in just now, that really made me think, whoa, fake, completely fake. Don't believe that at all. So I think those horn sounds, you need to get rid of those, swap those out. Strings aren't the worst things that I've heard. And I do think also a little bit more development needs to be happening in the drums. I think the drums are kind of basic and just dum, 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 you know, they're not really doing much. Other than kind of keeping time, but I want to feel more dynamic, interesting rhythms going on in there, some more intricate sort of percussion maybe, and also just adding, you know, the variations in your hits of, you know, having a little bit more of a ride that you bring your listener upon rather than just. It just feels very square right now, kind of robotic, right? And so I'm just saying, add a little bit more of that human, you know, almost tribal kind of a rhythm. I think that's one of those things that can definitely help you with this track. A little bit of timing issues too with your strings. Like sometimes I feel they're a little bit late and other things feel like they're a little bit early. I think you got to be careful with a lot of these string libraries, horn libraries, and everything you're doing, is that they all like start differently. They all have different attack times. So if you're using horns from this library, strings from this library, and you stack them together, yeah, they might look like they're on the grid, but these strings take like a half second to hit, and these horns are actually right on the grid. So you might be having this sort of back and forth problem going on. So you have to really get to know which library is doing what. And if you have to, you might have to like push back some of your strings a bit so they just actually start matching up with the grid. So hopefully that makes sense. But you do need to take the extra time to make sure that strings and horns and orchestral elements really sound good and are lining up well. So, but yeah, those are a few of my thoughts on that one. All right, Ziggy Blue, you got a SoundCloud for me. The energy of this track is really cool. I like where it's going. I'm not feeling the musical direction yet, though. I feel it's kind of empty, like there's a kind of a big hole in the center of it, and there's cool sounds, and there's, you know, the ear candy you're throwing in and all that kind of stuff. But I'm musically not really knowing where we're going here. Are we going in a happy direction, a sad direction, a contemplative direction, a tension, right? So because the music isn't giving me a clear direction, I'm not really sure emotionally where we're going either. And one of the big things you'll find is that if you don't have a clear emotion with a particular track, a lot of times it won't be getting any placements because a library won't know where to categorize it. And if they do categorize it, they might categorize it incorrectly. You have to make your track so obviously following one particular emotion that when a library or an editor or supervisor gets it, they go, oh yeah, that's happiness, or that's sadness, or that's depression, or that's, you know, tension, or that's cracking the code, or whatever it is, right? Like they need to know exactly where this is going. So I'm having a tricky time with this one, knowing exactly where I would put this. I mean, it's kind of spacey, it's kind of futuristic, so I can kind of feel some of that, but I want to hear a little bit more. I mean, if it's going to be futuristic, spacey, I want to hear more optimism and maybe curiosity, like wonder, you know, like I want to add a little bit more to it so it pushes us in that direction. That's where I could go, because right now it kind of just feels like a chill, cool, laid-back track, which, you know, there might be a place for that here and there, but if you want the best chances of serving the needs of a library, got to give them the specific emotions, and you do that by giving them much more of a clear musical direction. So hopefully that kind of helps explain that. And Wishnewski, you are next. You got a SoundCloud one? Let's see what you got here. This kind of spring sound that's going on here, it's just giving me kind of a comical feel. So I'm imagining you want a more serious tone. So that sound is probably not delivering what you want it to do, what you're trying to probably deliver with your music. And I get this a lot actually with Syndicate members, is sounds that kind of are meant to be like either intense or dark, but they come across as comedic and humorous. And if you listen to that again, picture some like, cartoon character with springs, like with this kind of cartoon sound effect of springs being plucked. So you can probably hear it now. So the problem with the strings I'm having is they're really slow and they're just kind of doing these long notes. Usually in licensing, you're not going to want to have these long, slow notes because what they're doing is they're actually dragging down the energy and it's kind of like feeling like a run-on sentence. So you probably want to stick more to staccato, shorter. Dun, 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 dun. You can have maybe some strings in the background sort of accenting that, but you got to have something that's pushing us forward. And those strings really are like, it always feels like when I get those kind of submissions, it's like a wet blanket. It's like this really heavy thing laid on top of the track. You know what I'm saying now? So if you listen to it, you'll kind of hear maybe now how that is actually dragging down the energy of your track. Now, I know you would say that it was unfinished and stuff, but I would definitely have a little bit more of a drum, foundation of the track going on here because I don't feel like we're pounding through as much as we can rhythmically. It's the same thing. These long strings don't really do much for you. All right, whoa, I'm hearing a lot of tuning issues and timing issues with this last part. So your strings in the background, they're kind of going up in half steps and they're kind of wandering in different places. And then this one in the dun 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 dun, your shorter ones feel like they're off time and they're not matching up with the now rhythm of the track. So a lot of things need to be fixed on this last part. That last part really started to fall apart for me. The first part felt like it was a little bit more focused in the time and the tuning and all that kind of stuff. But just double check this stuff because when you have all these conflicting tones and definitely timing issues, one of the things you can't do that. You have to have stuff that's absolutely lined up. Or if you're using like a cool creative rhythm or whatever, like the track we had a couple, plays ago, you can do something like that, but it's got to feel right. And this one definitely feels like it's just an error. Like it just wasn't quantized or it just wasn't lined up properly. Yeah, so hopefully those notes help you, man. I appreciate you sending it along. Lenny asked, does a Dropbox work? Absolutely. I love Dropbox. Send it on over. But send me a wave if you can, because I've had some issues with MP3s. I'm not able to scroll through them for some reason. I don't know why. Kevin, you are next. You've got a Dropbox link. There you go. Speak of the devil. That was a really cool, interesting intro. I love that. That was really, really funky, but in a cool way. I kind of wanted to hear more, something in the low end, like some low instrument that actually came in and kind of started singing along with that to push us a little bit more musically forward. But that rhythm and that sound, really cool, really unique. issue what's happening right now is you have these like cool bells, bling, ding, 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 you know, doing it over and over again, and then they go to a different note, bam, bum, bam, bum. But they're so loud and they're taking the whole focus of the track that it starts to feel repetitive. Like, okay, we've heard it. What else is going on in the track? And your other musical instruments that are there, but they're kind of really low, they're not helping to push the track forward as much as they could be. So I definitely wanted to hear more of like a nice big swelling sort of a chord progression underneath these nice bells on top. So I think maybe just, you know, messing with the balance of your mix might be one way to do that. Bringing up those musical progression elements and taking down those bells just a little bit so we have a little bit more balance there. But again, I'm loving this feel. It's a really cool sound. Yeah, really cool sound. Again, as I always say, stick with more also mid-tempo and high-tempo tracks as well, not just the slow stuff, because usually we'll find sometimes you don't get as many placements as we possibly can, just because most stuff on TV, if you watch, turn on the TV if you don't believe me, and pay attention to how many tracks are mid-tempo to up-tempo as opposed to how many are slow, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. All right, Big Time Drum. You got one here on SoundCloud. Love the attitude, love the funkiness, love the music. The sounds, the synths themselves are not doing it for me. They all sound kind of like in that karaoke style thing where they're synthetic and they don't feel like a live performance. And maybe if you're going for more of a synthetic thing, it's okay for them not to sound live. But definitely something a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more modern sounding and unique sounding, because these do sound a little bit more like this sort of stock template sounds you can get from, you know, whatever you're using, Fruity Loops or Logic Pro, or there's stuff that comes with a lot of these DAWs that you just find the preset, put it in your track, and then that's it. But it doesn't give you something that's like unique or distinctly you, right? So musically, great ideas. It's just I think it's you could have stronger tools that you're using, stronger sounds. And those high bells, those high plucks are really piercing as well. So I think that's the main issue here. It's a little bit, let me see what else you're doing here, but it's getting a little bit repetitive because we're hearing the same thing over and over again. I spoke way too soon because he just started switching it up here. My bad. Yeah, same thing with these low. I love the music. I love what you're doing with it, but I want to hear something a little bit more interesting than the just kind of standard synth buzzsaw sort of. It just sounds like I've heard that sound in so many tracks in the past before, so it's not giving me something unique and interesting to sink my teeth into and get excited about. So that's pretty much it. I think that's what's going on with this track. And of course, if you're going back to the same parts that you did before, make sure you're adding something new, right? Not just repeating the same thing, because we're not making, you know, tracks anymore for artists. We're actually making licensable music, so that means we need to bring our listener on a sort of a roller coaster with us. All right, Angelo, you got a SoundCloud link. Let's see what you got here. Drums are dope, music is dope, energy is there. We are already looping though. We're 36 seconds into it, and I've been hearing this over and over and over again already. So I think you might be one of the producers that have been making beats for, you know, rappers or artists or something, And that's usually how you used to do it, where you have, okay, cool, I got my chorus. Let me just copy, paste. All right, and verse, copy, paste, and then chorus, copy, paste. It's got to be a little bit different in the licensing business, actually kind of a lot different, in that you don't have a vocal to take the foreground, so you have to create that interest along the way. And if your track starts feeling really loopy and really repetitive, you might get placements, but if you do, they're going to be really small, because somebody who's putting together a reality show, for instance, won't want the same 4 bars or 1 bar dun, 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 repeating over and over and over again. It's going to get tired on the listener, and they're not going to want to have that in their show. So if you want longer placements, which does equate to more money for you, you got to provide a little bit more variation throughout your track. Couple of timing issues at the end there. I love those vocals. I'm kind of confused because your track says instrumental in parentheses and then it says vocal. So which one is it? I mean, if it's instrumental, I shouldn't be hearing vocals. If it's vocal, I should just be hearing, vocals throughout it. So, but right here, right before that last chorus, you hear some drum. Dum, ba-dum, bum. It just kind of felt like it was off a little bit there. So double check that. Yeah, once in a while your drums feel like there's something funky going on in there. Yeah, really cool sound. Again, if we want to go back to the chorus though, we got to have something else different that we haven't heard before. So I'm feeling like this is more of a beat. And beats need to actually be more carefully composed for the TV film licensing business. So, but I won't repeat myself. If you guys are liking what you're watching, please leave me a like. If I reviewed your track, please leave me a like. If you've sent me a track and you're waiting for a review, please leave a like. I do appreciate that. Mark, you are next. I gave you some tips on completing your first library album after a cold call on a live stream a couple months back. Okay, cool, man. Let's see what you got going on here. You're taking me on the journey here, man. Sounds really good. I want those of you that are watching right now that, when I just was talking about the difference between making beats and making a licensable track, this is a perfect example. From the last track I played that really felt more like a beat that a vocalist should have been on, this feels like a TV film licensing track, right? So you can tell that there's a major difference between how the producers in this industry are producing their tracks. Loving the energy at the end of here, man. This is a really cool track. It's definitely like syncing up with me. My gut always tells me if I'm liking something, and my gut's telling me I like this. One mixing note though, there's a little bit of conflict happening because the high synth, and I think you have two synths. You have that one that's kind of playing that melody, bum, 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 and then you have these high buzzing synths. They're kind of in the same frequency spectrum, so I'm getting a lot of noise coming at me in those high areas. So probably carving one of them out a little bit, or maybe finding a different place for them to sit in the mix. Creating a little bit more separation and a place for each one of them would probably be a way to go, because right now it's like overwhelming me with a lot of high frequency information. So I'm getting kind of more of the soda can opening noise. I'm getting a lot of that coming through the mix right now. But wow, you've really brought up the energy towards the end here. It's a really cool track. And because of all that, I'm also losing some of your drums. Like, your drums aren't hitting as impactful as they possibly can. So I think the drum sounds you're using are great. I don't think it's an issue of the samples, just the mix. So you have a lot of stuff that's kind of coming into the foreground, and so those drums are being left behind. But yeah, man, really, really cool stuff. I like that a lot. All right, Chris, you've got a YouTube link here. Let's see what you got.
Dad on the beat.
I like this vibe. You were saying this is not good for sync placements. I disagree. I think this absolutely can, especially the Cuban international world vibe, the Latin vibe. Absolutely. I just feel like right now this track is really stripped down and kind of minimal. Like, I want to hear more going on. I just hear this one lead and the drums. So I mean, we'll listen to more, but like right off the bat, I kind of want to hear a little bit more beef in this track, like much quicker. Like you see on this part, it's just dun 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 dun. It's just very spread out and minimal. So a vocal on top would obviously, it would work. So if you have a vocalist, maybe you want to get a vocalist on top. That would help fill in those gaps. Right now, as it is, it just feels like it needs more. Something else needs to be happening in there. Maybe more guitar, or I don't know, another synth sound, something else to just kind of help round this out a little bit. It feels a little bit too stripped down. Yeah, so you're saying that you actually make this more for artists. So there you go. But now you've seen with this review video the difference between just a beat and something that can be happening with an artist. So, but very licensable, absolutely. World music is one of those things that not a lot of producers do. So I don't know if you're based here in the U.S. or wherever you're based, but you can work with U.S. companies wherever you are in the world. Just let them know right off the bat where you are. But creating world music is in high demand. A lot of libraries need it. A lot of productions need that. Believe it or not, a lot of my placements come from Univision, a lot of Spanish programming. It's kind of strange. I don't know how that worked out, but I don't really produce Spanish music, but a lot of the rock music that I do, I think, does lend itself well to some of the Spanish markets. So it's a lot of stuff going on in the Spanish market. A lot of people are putting together TV shows and all that good stuff. So a great sound, man. I really like it. All right, moving along. Eric, you got a Dropbox here for me. All right, so we have 38 watching and only 16 likes, guys. Come on, get those likes up, please. Throw me some love here. Let's go here with Eric's track. Love where this is going. I kind of want to hear this jump in a little bit faster. Again, in the licensing business, you want to kind of grab the attention pretty quickly. It's different in the artist world. In the artist world, if you had a vocalist on here, yeah, he could be rapping something for a couple of bars and then boom, you get into it. But in the licensing world, you usually want to have a fairly short intro and then boom, get right into that music, because somebody who's thinking about using your track, they're not going to preview an entire, 3 minutes and 45 seconds. They can't preview the whole thing to find out if they want to use it. They usually listen to like 5-10 seconds of it and decide right then and there, is this going to work? Cool. So that's as much time as they're going to usually give each track. So give them something to sink their teeth into really quickly, and that way you'll have a better shot. Yeah, it's got a little bit of that beat thing going on as well. We talked about that before, actually. So, but great. I like the sounds. I like the mix. I like where you're going with it. But just make sure that we are having some cool, interesting transitions from one part to the next, and we're not just looping the same part over and over again. Make sure that we're creating that sort of interest alone without a vocalist on top. Yeah, because I can already tell what you're doing is just copy and pasting what you did before on the chorus. So you got to do more than that in the licensing business. This last chorus, start adding some strings, start adding some cool vocal drops, add something that makes this track different. Switch up the drums, add more percussion, whatever it is you want to do. But very licensable, absolutely, in that sort of modern hip hop feel. Really cool. All right, Zell, I think that's how you pronounce your name, is X-E-L. You got a SoundCloud link for me? So same issue I've had with a couple of other tracks. Well produced, I like it. Obviously, I'm bouncing around to it, so it's really like sinking in with me. I'm really feeling it. It's a little bit slow. It's a little bit draggy. Okay, so it feels a little bit tired. And usually you're not going to get a lot of placements with a tired sounding track. You want something that's a little bit more upbeat, a little more energetic. So rather than having just these like long chords, bum, 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 whatever you're doing there, think about bum, 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 something a little bit more bouncy, something with a little bit more energy to it, a little bit more, swing to it, whatever you want to call it, but less long, heavy chords. That's usually what's going to drag down the vibe of it, because it's already a slow tempo track. I mean, how slow is this? It's already kind of a mid-tempo, slow tempo thing. So to counteract that, to sort of to balance that out, you want to have more upbeat, bouncy instruments that are also, complementing and pushing the track forward a little bit. So. So these feel better right now, these like plucks, dun, 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 dun. So that makes it feel better. But now the issue is that you have the hi-hats just following the same rhythm. So everything's just, so it's kind of like lost a little bit of the interest rhythmically. I'd probably want to hear more of those kind of hi-hat rolls. Dun, 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 something like that just counteracts a little bit of what we're hearing over here. So adding kind of rhythmic interest throughout it. That's how you can probably get a little bit more of that forward momentum and that interest without it feeling too robotic. It kind of feels really robotic now. Dun, 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 dun. It's very, very on the beat, right, on the grid. So anyways, that would be what I say, what my 2 cents would be. All right, Narek, you've got one from SoundCloud. Do I like it already? Narek, there's no way that you're not already doing music licensing, man. This is too good. So please tell me you're already working with libraries or doing something in this business, man. This sounds really good. Very well produced. Killer, man. Like, straight up just a killer track. Completely, like, took me down, man. That was a really, really cool production there. Really interesting, too. I mean, I know you're going for the your orchestral trailer thing, but I liked that it didn't have the sort of typical, stereotypical trailer sound. You had some really interesting musical choices, musical direction that you were doing there, and the sounds that you were using, so I really like that. I think the outro, I think what I would do is have a little bit more of a focused outro. It felt like we kind of had like 3 different endings. It was like boom, boom, and then another one. So maybe rather than having it end the way you did, I would probably have maybe a single, maybe a false, hit where it's just dum 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 dum, da 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 bum bum, or whatever you want to do. But it felt like it was like, when are we ending? It couldn't decide when it wanted to end. So maybe having more of a definite hit ending. But you can obviously have your false ending that starts before that. But that would be the only thing that I would say, man. That was really, really cool. Great stuff, man. I love getting those kind of tracks that just totally blow me away. All right, Tom, you've got one from SoundCloud. Cool. So similar issue that I've had with the previous one. Musically, I like where it's going. You actually got me bouncing and got me going with this one. The sounds aren't doing it for me, though. The guitars obviously do feel synthetic, and I'm kind of hearing that, those kind of fake chugs that you have going on there. Everything about those guitars, you don't always have to get like a perfectly live, authentic sounding guitar. Sometimes you can get away with something that's a little bit more synthetic. But this one, and then when the drums came in and the synths and everything, it just wasn't doing it much for me. Also, I want to hear a little bit more low impact. This track is kind of giving me a lot of the high mid-frequency impact, but I'm not getting that nice low warm, especially since this is kind of a rock hip-hop hybrid. You got to have a little bit more of that low end that punches through. And also, we're repeating the same thing over and over again. So I've talked about that as well. We need to have some more variation with the riffs. So rather than doing the same riff, try to completely switch it up with like a B section. Something completely same key or whatever, but it could be like sort of your chorus riff that sort of accents what's going on with the verses as well. So we're not repeating the same thing over and over again. But yeah, probably more also looking into getting some more modern and sort of dynamic sounding samples and drums and all that good stuff. That's probably one of the things I would definitely recommend as well. All right, Travis, you got one from SoundCloud. Let's see what you got. So same issue as before as other ones. It took us 32 seconds to finally get into the music. We should get into this beat 5 to 10 seconds in. There should be a short little intro, give us a little hint of what's coming, and then boom, right into our music. So you can give your supervisor a little taste of what's to come. Love the beat, love the drums, but again, musically, we're kind of just meandering, kind of wandering. It feels like a run-on sentence, like I don't really know where we're going. So similar issues as I've talked about before. Make sure you have a more of a set defined chord progression that gives a set defined emotional appeal. That's probably usually where you want to go with it. You can stay in the sort of spacey experimental place, but you got to give us something more that we can say, this makes me feel optimistic, curious, something. Right now, this is in nebulous land. I'm not sure where to categorize this, and this is probably what a music library would tell you as well. They're not really sure where to put this. Love your drum sounds, though. I love that industrial big snare. It's really cool. So yeah, just a little bit more focus on the music, just so we know where we're going here with this one. That would be where I would say. All right, Burn. You're probably my most commenter of all time, man. You're the one with the most live comments. So I appreciate you here, man. Love this, man. Burn. The only thing that I'm noticing that's kind of bothering me is your side chain when those chords hit. It's a little too long to hear those chords, so it feels like everything's being kind of squashed out a little too much. It's too long. It's okay to have a little bit of that, but usually in this style, it's very quick. It's very fast, the release time of your sidechain. So give me just more of that immediately. And maybe also, I don't know if you had a crash cymbal in the thing. You did, okay. Love it, man. Making me feel good for sure. Love it. The false start. You have this nice, cool little start that comes up. Man, just really cool stuff. Claps going at the end there, so you're building it up, building it up. The last hit, that kind of was a little underwhelming, I'll be honest though, Burn. That's the one thing I would say. I wanted to hear more of an epic build-up that was like da 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 dun dun bam. You know, kind of felt like somebody, kind of honked a clown horn at the end there. It really didn't give me this bomb, 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 really impactful, really energetic. So I'd stack up that intro, that last hit a lot more and make that much more cinematic at the end there. But no, don't apologize for asking questions. That's what I'm here for. That's what the live Q&As are here for. So no, I'm glad you're here, man, and asking all the questions that you do. You have good questions for sure. But man, that one that was one of those ones I just wanted to keep listening to. So you're onto a great sound, very licensable, very modern, musically beautiful. So you're stellar on that, man. Sergio, all right, you got a salsa hybrid song. Let's see what's going on here. little bit too much repeating before we start building up the track. So I like this piano part a lot. I almost think you should just start the track with this piano rather than the first intro kind of stripped down piano. I like this more full one. But then within like one progression, we should start adding those claps and the ride cymbals, because this track is already 3.5 minutes long. It's a pretty long track for the TV film licensing business. Usually 2 to 3 minutes is all you're going to really need. So we don't need this much development happening. See, I was kind of going through your track, and I'm hearing that same chord progression, that same piano thing happening for like 1.5 minutes. Way too much of the same progression happening over and over again. We have more of a development, more of a progression that's happening with our music. So. And this part's a little too stripped down. Your B section, I feel like it's a little bit too minimal. We need probably more happening there. If you found a library that said they wanted minimal sort of, world music like this, then yes, you could do that. But I think a lot of this is a little bit too rhythmic and it's not musical enough. And we need more musical direction with this track. The drums are also giving me kind of a synthetic fake feel to them, so I probably would get a little bit more of a live sounding drum set if I could get something like that. Double Beats was asking about recommending libraries. So usually what I've said many times is that I don't give out specific recommended libraries, mostly because there's 2 reasons. Number one, I just don't have time to keep up to date with 300 plus libraries. I have a music library directory, which you can always get in the description of my videos if you want it. But you do have to do some homework. I mean, you got to find out. You got to look through quite a few companies and find out which ones that your music fits in with. So you guys have to understand, put yourself in my shoes. I have thousands of producers that email me and they all ask me the same question. Jesse, who do I send it to? Well, I don't know your music. I don't know what your goals are. There's a lot of things that have to be considered before that could even be possible, but it's just like I don't have the time, guys. I just don't have that time to tell you specifically which library you should go work with. And each library also changes up their needs from any, quarter to quarter or even year to year, right? But the new service that I am putting together right now, which you guys have probably heard about with my emails, with my videos here, is coming in a couple of weeks. I think I'm going to launch it August 1st, and it actually will make specific library recommendations for specific genres, okay? That's all I'm going to say about it right now. So if you want to see how that can be done, stay tuned. You'll learn more about that in the coming weeks. But for right now, I'm not giving out specific recommendations for specific genres or anything like that. That will be included with this new service that I unroll in a couple of weeks. So you guys will learn more about that soon. All right, back to our reviews. Tracy, you have I think it's a YouTube? Yeah, you gave me a YouTube one. Tracy, your link gave me something bunk. Sorry, Tracy. If you want to send me another one, I don't know. There was an error there. Paul, you have a Dropbox here? Lenny's asking, is this what it's like in the syndicate? Yes. When I offer the open reviews for people just to post whatever they're working on, this is basically what it's like, except for I actually record a video for whoever uploaded a track, and then I'll dedicate, a good portion of everybody's track on that video so that I can actually go through and tell you what's working, what's not working, and also, more importantly, how to improve it. So absolutely, as you can see on your screen here, this is definitely all part of what you usually get as a regular syndicate member. the musical ideas, love the energy, and that drum beat's really slamming. I like that. The sounds, though, they're just not really doing much for me here. They feel really dark and kind of dingy a little bit. Like we don't have a lot of clarity and presence with us in the room. So it all feels like it's kind of in the closet next door. So that could be a mix issue, but I think also just the sounds themselves. Like those fast plucking ones. I want to hear more like a nice warm low pluck to those. You know, I want to feel that a little bit more. And right now they're just really pingy and tingy and just kind of up in the high range. Also, there's a little bit of an issue here of I don't know where to categorize this or put this in with a genre. It's got a little bit of electronic, a little bit of industrial, a little bit of rock, I guess, to it. So it's kind of all over the place. So I think you're getting a little bit more focused on where exactly this would land. Whoops, sorry. Don't mean to be knocking my microphone here. Where exactly this could land, or what genre this would really be appropriate to fit into. It's something that I think is a little bit, lacking right now. I'm not exactly sure what I would put this. And like that lead sound, it kind of sounds a little bit like a toy, it kind of just sounds like really squeaky. So I'm getting more of a juvenile, youthful sound rather than a mature, serious, intense or tension sound, if that's what you're really going for. So again, just sound selection, sample selection. That's usually what the issue is. That sound, right? That's a really, it sounds like a squeaky toy or something, right? So all this stuff is really sort of squeaky and in your face, kind of in the high frequency. So kind of focusing more on a little bit lower, serious, more dynamic sounding sounds would be a better way to go about it. All right, Mark, you sent me a Dropbox link. Let's see what we got here. See if we can pull this up. So I like this track. It's conflicting me a little bit, and I was trying to figure out what is it about it that's conflicting me. I think I'm feeling like I'm being pulled in two different directions. Part of it is kind of EDM, dance, pop, and another part of it's really serious, like dramatic, right? I'm hearing these two kind of things happening with this, but I'm not feeling the sort of marriage of both of them completely perfectly yet. I think that's what I'm hearing here. That's what I would say is maybe go in one or the other of those two directions. Keep it more serious, more dramatic, or keep it more sort of like upbeat, EDM, feeling good kind of a thing. Because I'm hearing both of them. I think your piano, I think that's a piano on the bottom. Like you have this mystical like curiosity, which is really cool, and I like that probably more than I like the more upbeat side of this thing. So there's something that's just conflicting. It might be in the sounds, and it also might be in the music. This is one of those that's kind of a gray area. I'll be as articulate as I possibly can. This last chorus feels more together to me. Like this really feels like it's tied up nicely. So for some reason that second chorus felt really together. The first chorus wasn't quite doing that. There's a little bit of a conflict, I think, with your lead, that little pluck thing, and the low chords. That might be what was bothering me there. But I like it. I really like where you're going, especially towards the end of that last chorus. It really kind of came together nicely. All right, Milton, you've got one. I think you got a YouTube. Yeah, you got a YouTube track. Here we go. So same issue as before. You know, this feels like a beat rather than and it is a beat. I can just tell by the way you marketed it and put it up there. This is a beat for artists. So this would not be applicable for a TV film placement. You would have to obviously develop this a little bit more than just copying and pasting the same progression over and over again, taking the drums out, putting the drums back in, that kind of thing. So you can watch other reviews I've done on this already to kind of show you that difference. But yeah, we need to see a little bit more development with the track if it were going to be considered for the TV film licensing business. But it definitely sounds modern. It definitely has some great sounds in it. So you're on the right track in terms of that. So sorry, that's not an email for this. All right, Lenny, you've got one here. This is a Dropbox one. All right. Here we go. So your strings, there's some timing issues. They're a little bit rushed at certain places, and they're also really loud. It's kind of an interesting sound. I like where you're going with it, but your drums and everything else feel really small, and your strings are like boom, like taking over the whole mix. So get a little bit more balance there. Let those strings kind of sit a little bit more naturally on top of the drums rather than dominating the entire mix. Weird delays or timing issues happening with your drums and your hi-hats and stuff like that. So just double check that stuff. Your strings are also really dry. They need a little bit more reverb. They feel kind of synthetic when they don't have that space around them. Yeah, and there's definitely a timing issue with your drums, and your strings are not lining up perfectly, and you have your hi-hats that are doing that kind of like triplet, that kind of thing going on. So there's just some timing issues that need to be sorted out there. And as I said before, you know, let's not repeat the same thing over and over again. We got to add something if we're going to repeat some section, just to make sure that we're not completely, you know, running the course a little bit too much and repeating what we don't really need to. So, all right, Kevin, you've got one here. Automatically loaded up to 255. I wonder why. Had I heard this song before? Possible. It's definitely taking too long to get to it now. We're at 54 seconds in, and I haven't heard any music yet. Minute 24. Oh, so this is it. So yeah, this is definitely, it's too slow, too mellow, too ambient probably for the TV film licensing business. If you want it to be considered, the drums are really, really small, and they're very small, very quiet underneath the rest of what's going on. And usually, as a general rule, you want to kind of stay away from these long pad sounds, these long chords. They really just drag the thing on a little bit too much and drag it down in energy. So you want something that's a little bit more, it moves along a little bit more, you know. It's also, you know, over 7.5 minutes long, so that's obviously needlessly way too long. We should have this 2 to 3 minutes max. So yeah, I think this is a little bit too ambient for the TV film licensing business. I mean, you could find some place that would actually need this thing, but I don't think there's going to be a high demand for this sort of really spacey, ambient sort of, you know, wandering. This is kind of more meditation kind of music or spa music. You know, it's kind of got a little bit of that appeal to it, but it doesn't seem as functional for the TV film business. You'd have to have it a little bit more focused and obviously much shorter. Angelo, all right. We already listened to that one. I don't know why that one's popping up again. All right, Adam. Hip-hop track with Middle Eastern influence. I like the attempt to do the hybrid thing. Couple issues though. One, the drums feel very dated. These drums kind of feel like they're, you know, early 2000s, late 90s sort of drums. So these drums feel very, very old. I almost can recognize those sounds. I think they're from like an old like GarageBand or something. I know that GarageBand has some loops or drum sounds that sound just like that. So probably need to update your drum sounds of what you're doing. Also, with the Middle Eastern music, it needs to feel a little bit more authentic, if authentically Middle Eastern. I feel that you have the scales right and you have some of the sounds right, but the way that it's being composed, I'm not really feeling like I'm in the Middle East yet. I feel like I'm in somebody's studio with a keyboard playing Middle Eastern music, if that makes sense. So probably need to spend more time getting more in tune with the authentic sound of Middle Eastern music to really deliver that home. Like I want to hear some strings, you know, something that warps up a little bit, or I need more going on. It just feels really stripped down, like it's just this one lead and the drums playing this chorus. Because there are parts where I'm like, is this Greek? Is this Middle Eastern? Is this South America? I mean, there's parts of it that don't quite feel like they're fitting into one particular area. So I would just double check that and just make sure that you're staying true to whatever genre it is that you want to be using and mimicking. Paul, you've got one from Box. Let's see. And we're going to go till, I think we'll go till 10 a.m. my time. It's about 30 minutes from now. So whatever I get to in the next 30 minutes, guys, that's what I'll be able to get to. So I know some of you are going to be disappointed and bummed out and probably pissed off that I didn't get to your track. But I can't do this all day long. I got to get back to, you know, my priorities as well today. So. cool vibe, but again, you know, it's a little too mellow. It's not really going anywhere. I feel like we're kind of staying in the same place, and this is more of a beat rather than it is a sort of track, a composed track. So I think it needs just a little bit further development. The sounds are also a little bit template-y sounding, a little bit kind of dated, or just sort of like the preset sound that doesn't really give me sort of a really interesting, unique feel for your production. And again, it's not that you don't have the musical ideas. Obviously, I can tell that you do. But it's just spending that extra time and making sure you're auditioning more with the sounds that you're using to make them sound a little bit more just interesting. You know, just really think about that. Like, is this a sound that you've heard 1,000 times on other tracks, or is this kind of a new, interesting sound? Usually that new, interesting sound, as long as it's not so far out there that it's just strange, is the way to go, because that's what's going to help define you as a producer, right? So you're going to have a kind of a signature sound, and you want a signature sound. You don't want to sound like everybody else's beats. You want it to be like, oh, I know that sound. That's from X producer, right? All right, Angelo, you keep sending me emails, man. I don't know. Or this is just a different email. Okay, I'll read that later. Pro Audio. All right, you got a SoundCloud. Let's go. So you guys probably know what I'm going to say on this one already. So musically, it's cool. It's, you know, going along. It's got this cool groove to it. I feel like a lot of these instruments, though, aren't delivering a realistic, authentic feel to what they're supposed to be. Like that bass. It just, everything feels like it's also the progression. You're repeating the same progression. Boom, bum, 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 again, bum, bum. It just, same thing over and over and over and over again. And so everything is cutting off nice and clean, and there's really no sort of like, you know, the human function or the human kind of, you know, there's a little bit of sloppiness when humans playing instruments. And this feels so tight, so clean, and it's repeating the same thing over and over again. So it's giving me that sort of fake feeling to it. It's not giving me a realistic feel. So that's it. It's not, you know, it's a little bit more probably in the corporate world, but, or even actually a little bit in the world music market. But again, just more, the biggest offender of that is just the repeating, and it's just too clean. Everything's way too clean for it to sound like it was a real band that just performed that. All right, Atomic, you've got this one. Let's see what's going on here. I like the darkness. I like the heaviness of this. It's got a little bit of a Nine Inch Nails synth wave, kind of a cool thing going on. Needing more heavy though. These drums are not giving me a heavy feeling. I want to hear like almost like an industrial heavy snare. Big kicks. I need all that stuff happening here. This one feels really, the idea is there, but this feels like a demo. Like this doesn't feel like the final full version that would have been released, you know? All right, that was kind of too much of a shift that we went from this dark, cool do, and then now we're like in a happy place. So it was kind of too much of a transition there. I think we needed to be introduced a little bit more to something different happening sooner on, a bar or two before, or maybe just have a different kind of a part there to lead into this. Because I think I'm liking that darker section more than I'm liking this kind of upbeat part that you put in there. Yeah, I definitely like that darker sound. I think I was a little bit disappointed actually to hear this kind of get a little bit brighter, because I wanted to hear that do 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 do. You know, I really like that a lot. Probably need a little bit more moving around with that lead. I'm not mad at the lead itself, but it's kind of like it's just that same note for way too long. So maybe having a little bit more variation, having some pauses, some rest, create a little bit more interest with your lead. That's one way to go. But I kind of wanted to hear a little bit more of that darkness coming through. That's just me though. All right, Free Crack over 9,000. Killer name, man. Let's see what you got.
This is a 5 o'clock Free Crack giveaway.
So same issue here. We're 28 seconds in and I haven't heard any music yet. I haven't heard like an actual beat. I haven't heard anything happening. And so if I were a music supervisor and I'm looking for just something quick and simple to throw into my TV show, I'm skipping. I haven't heard it yet, right? So just make sure that within a couple of seconds you get into something we can groove to. I don't know what just happened there. Hold on. So this is interesting because there's really no musical direction at all. It's mostly sounds, right? It's kind of an interesting way to put together a beat, actually. But it sounds more like a horror kind of a beat, which if you can find somebody that needs horror music and they want something that's hip hop, but it's just completely dark and twisted and just kind of interesting like this, then you can definitely find a place to put this. I'm just not sinking my teeth into anything musically yet. So other than scary and horror, I don't know what other emotions you're going to be able to pull out of this. For some reason, I don't know why it's doing that. Every time I try to press play, it starts pausing out on me. Yeah, so that's all I would say is that it's just a little bit, it's atonal, obviously. It doesn't have a particular direction musically. And the only emotion I'm getting out of that is just horror or scary, which you can find some use for that, but think about how many programs on TV are in the horror department. There's not that much, actually. It's a lot more for reality TV shows, commercials, promos, sports, and listen to the music that's going on there. You're not going to hear this kind of sound. So you might be limiting yourself in a way. I mean, if you can find a cool niche, you might be able to find some cool stuff, but you might be limiting yourself in a major way by just focusing on this kind of sound. All right, Ben, you're with SoundCloud here. DJ Baker, this is you. Same thing, man. 29 seconds in, I haven't heard a beat yet. So when this chorus comes in, this is awesome. This is fire. I love the energy of this, but it took us, 40 seconds to finally get into this chorus. So give me something to sink my teeth into right when I hit play on your track. Think about that. Think about your track as a marketing tool for your music when you're not there in front of a supervisor to pitch it to them, right? The only thing that can really sell your music at that point is them clicking play and listening to the first couple of seconds of your track. So start with a really cool, fill or a musical hook that can really get somebody sunk into it. Or just go right into your chorus, something, right? Get the attention right off the bat. It's just going to be that way to make sure you stand out from the crowd. Now your verses get really quiet, DJ, like really, really quiet. Like your choruses feel really good, and then the verses come way down. I have to like turn up my speakers because I can't hear it anymore. So probably just get a little bit more of a medium sort of a dynamic range there, not from a 10 out of 10 to a 1 out of 10. Maybe bring a 10 out of 10 to like a 4 or 5. So this verse, and I noticed that with your intro too, is really, really, really quiet. So when that chorus came in, it was almost like startling. Whoa, like how loud that got. I like having these changes and you're switching it up. So yeah, you got a lot of the fundamentals down there in terms of having the structure and stuff. And I like the modern, upbeat, fun. Like that's a great like advertising song. That's a great commercial song. A lot of potential for that kind of a sound, but just probably the dynamics there. It's probably the big things I would look for. Javo or Yavo. Sorry if I got your name wrong. Let me see what you got here. Again, the Spotify stuff, guys. Sorry. I might have an account, but I don't even want to log into it and deal with that, so I'm sorry I can't listen to it. Memes Beats. All right, let's see what you got. Okay, so I like the Christmas sort of, EDM hybrid mashup thing you're doing here. This intro, though, lasted way too long. It was like I heard that bum, 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 bum way too many times. So probably cut that intro down in half. You really don't need that much. But I like how it started. It definitely got my attention. And I was like, oh, cool, Christmas. But it just took too long to finally get to this beat. What is going on with this? I swear, ever since I came back from vacation, I've had nothing but technical issues with everything. I don't know what happened. I like it. I mean, it's short and sweet. If you're going for basically more of a, I would put together, if you're going to sell something like this, I think that was a little bit short too. It was only about like a minute long. How long is this thing? Yeah, about a minute. I would go a little longer than that. I would create like a B section and stretch that out to probably 2 minutes. And maybe create a full album full of that kind of music. That's what I would do, and I would have a whole like marketing packaging thing ready to go for it. Like this is, EDM Christmas, something like that. And right now would be the time to start shopping that, okay? Not in November when they've already done all the productions for all those Christmas specials, but right now in July, in June and July, August, that's when you want to start getting those tracks into some library so that when fall comes, that's when they're going to start producing their Christmas programming, right? And commercials and all that good stuff. That's when you want to get in fairly early. All right, Robert Hughes. Sorry, I said I wasn't going to say last names. My bad. Robert. Some of you guys, sorry, I'm going to get back to, some of you guys are sending me 2 tracks. I think I was very clear. 1 track, okay? So please don't be greedy. If you got a review, stop emailing me, stop sending me your tracks. If you got one, please leave a like here and take my notes and make those improvements. But please be respectful of what I'm doing here. I'm giving you guys free feedback. and I'm listening to your guys' tracks. So please don't abuse that by spamming me, by sending me a whole bunch of music. It'll make me less likely want to do this in the future, okay? So just please respect that boundary. Just give me one track. Otherwise, it's just spam in my email, and it's hard to find out, okay, who have I not given feedback to? So please stop doing that. So cool vibe, Robert. It's a little bit mellow though. It's really soft. Like I feel like I'm not getting the impact and the intensity that I need from something like this. It's not a really aggressive track, but it still needs a little bit more than this. This one really feels like it got like the whole energy and the intensity of this track got turned down to like a 6 when it should be like at a 7 or an 8, something like that. There's kind of weird industrial sounds in the background. I'm not really digging those, and they're kind of just adding noise to the track. The track is really quiet. It's hard to hear it. Yeah, it's a weird sound. And also, stylistically, where are we going here? Genre-wise, where are we going? I mean, is this pop? Is this rock? Is this, I mean, where are we going? Because the drums are obviously very synthetic. That's very, you know, kind of drum machine soundish. But then you also have these organic sounds in there. You have... there was a guitar, I think that was the organic thing. But your bass obviously sounds very synthetic. Strings don't sound that bad, actually. I like those strings and the piano. Okay. When you start throwing in your strings and pianos, this starts to feel like a real track. This starts to feel like it has a definite focus now. And I think before I just wasn't really sure where to put it. So I would probably stick more in that orchestral world for this. You can have the electronic drums and maybe electronic bass or something like that. But I would kind of maybe focus it more on the cinematic top, right? Like, so you have all your other instruments that are giving more of that dramatic cinematic feel. That's my 2 cents on it for sure. Tracy, you said you had it on private and now it's set to public. Let's see what's going on here. There we go. It's working now, Tracy. So same issue with the sort of horror beat that I was talking about before. It's not giving me a direct emotional or musical direction yet. It sounds more like some interesting kind of industrial noises, that kind of a thing. But musically, I'm not sure where we're going here. And also, I'm not hearing or feeling any impact from your kick at all. So, like, either the drums are really compressed or something with the mix there. It's just like everything feels like it's like the instruments and the music is coming through, and that tambourine is really loud. That's really punching me in the face. But I'm not getting that low impact anymore or at all from the kick. So I want to hear a little bit more of those drums. Yeah, like this lead right here has some... pitch issues. It's kind of like wandering around pitch wise, so whatever the preset is, it's kind of giving me this wobbly feeling. Because it feels like you're a little bit more in a like a dark industrial synth place, and I think that's a cool place to be, but execution wise it needs to have more consistent sounds that fit into that genre. Right now I'm not really getting that. Yeah, I definitely want to hear a kick. I'm not hearing much of a kick in there, and I want to hear that because I like that vibe, but I think just more of that kick needs to be pushed through there. So Couple more here, guys. I can feel my brain draining on me, and that's why my feedback is getting a little bit more and more unclear. So I know when I need to just call it quits. So a couple more, and then we'll wrap it up today. Dominic, you have one here. Nope, you sent me something else. I told you no direct. I didn't want any attachments. I just wanted a link. Okay, that's not it. Pitar, all right. Let's see what you got going on here. Got me a SoundCloud one. Love it. Bringing me along for the ride for sure. Same thing. What was your name? Hold on. Pitar. Okay, please tell me, Pitar, if you're watching, that you actually are doing this like at least part-time right now, because this is some crazy stuff you got going on. Doesn't this just get you guys just as hyped up as like caffeine? I mean, this is just crazy stuff. I love it. Oh, so Peter, you are doing this. Good, man. Glad to hear that. So I hope you're finding some success with whatever you're doing, because this is a great sound. It's a really, really cool. Feeling a little bit of that repetitiveness with the strings. You know, we're doing that over and over again. So maybe you want to cut this part short, but let's see what we do at the break. Not done yet. Oh, thought there was more going on there. There was a little bit of a drop. Wow, that was incredible, man. If you guys are ever feeling like demotivated, or like you're like, you're feeling kind of blah, like you don't want to do anything, turn on that when you wake up in the morning. That made me want to go conquer a planet. Like that was crazy. So wow, Peter, man, really, really good stuff. I hope you're seeing some good success, and I hope you're getting accepted by some libraries and putting music out there, man. You got a crazy amount of talent there. All right, James, we've got one. You got an MP3 here. Let's see if it works. It's working. I think it's the MP3 settings, but it definitely feels very compressed, like low, a little bit lo-fi. So I'm hoping it's just your MP3 settings here with this track. But I love it. I don't hear like any jazz ever in this business. I mean, there is definitely some places where you can get it licensed, but I don't hear a lot of submissions of it. So it's really cool to get to hear it.
I'm hoping on my knees I pray that this world's not counting down the days. I said we're fighting wars that can't be won. We're killing men, women, children just for fun. I said treat your brothers right, treat your brothers right, treat your sisters right, treat your brothers right, treat your sisters right. Enjoy yourself, enjoy your life on the beach paradise. Enjoy yourself, enjoy your life on the beach paradise.
I like this. This is really cool. It's almost got even a little bit of that blues feel in it as well. I would tell you that you would probably have a better chance at doing more like, how would I describe it? Like if you're going to go into this kind of blues feel, something a little bit maybe darker would probably be the way to go. Like a darker kind of a blues, not as an upbeat, cheery. This feels kind of upbeat a little bit. I would think you would find more placements if you had that kind of more of a darker feel to your music, especially if you're going to go in this kind of a bluesy realm. I thought it was more of a jazzy song in the beginning, but now I'm listening to the vocals. It's got a little bit of that slide to it, you know, that sort of bluesy slide to it. So if it's darker, a little bit more cinematic, a little bit more richer in the emotions, you might find you'll actually see a little bit more placements. But it sounded good, though. There was some pitchiness with the vocals, but very minimally. That kind of stuff you can really fix with a little bit of auto-tune or just a little bit of correction here and there. For the most part, though, it's all sounding really clean.
Enjoy your life on the beach
Like those little live, I hear a little bit of that pitchiness with the harmonies. I think.
paradise.
Now, this is a long song, almost 5 minutes long. So just so you know, you probably would be cutting this down to 2 to 3 minutes if you want to get it into a library. So you're probably repeating a lot of parts that you don't have to always keep repeating. So just showing a little bit of each part would keep you in that sort of safe zone there. So, all right, Aaron, you've got one here on YouTube. Cool vibe. I'm not feeling the kick though. I'm really not feeling anything on the low end punching through this mix that much. You have one down there. I hear a little doom doom doom, but it's really not punching through. I like what you're doing here because you're doing a hip hop beat, but you have a really unique approach to it. It doesn't sound like a typical hip hop beat. It almost has a little bit of a world sound to it, just a different sound to it, which is cool. But we are repeating that same thing over and over again. Boom, 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 boom. It's just the same thing happening. So getting a little bit stuck in the loopy treadmill feeling, you might want to do a little bit more variation with your progression so that you stay away from that. And I know it's just a sample of your music, but you definitely always want to have that hit definite ending. You don't really want to have a fade out or whatever. That's usually not the way you want to end it. So, well, we only got 3 showing up in my inbox right now that are left. So let me go ahead and get through these 3. David, you have one here. Keep hearing a squeaking sound. I don't know where that's coming from. So I'm getting a little bit of that sort of, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star melody coming in through. Bum, 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 bum. So it feels very young. It feels very elementary in that way. So, sometimes there might be a place for that in like kids programming and kids music and that kind of thing. I don't see a lot of that. I've had, I think, one opportunity in my entire 10 years in this business asking for kids music for a kids programming thing. And they didn't even want this young of a sound. They wanted something that was more like for teenagers. So it's not going to get a lot of placements. You're probably not going to see a lot of programming. There is some, obviously, you got Nickelodeon and all those other shows that would use this kind of stuff for like the real little kid stuff. What's the other one? Disney, Disney Kids. I think they have a channel as well. So there's definitely a place to go for, but just so you know, you're limiting yourself a little bit with this sound. Got a little bit of this sort of like really young sound to it, so that would be if that's where you want to go for it all day long. But it's one of those limited places where you'll have a few opportunities for it, not a ton of stuff. Sean, here we go. Got a YouTube link for me. Oh yeah. Wow, you had a really loud shaker that just came out of nowhere at 18 seconds. So, careful on that. Love the funkiness to it. We're kind of just repeating the same thing, though. It's not really pushing me in a certain direction. It's kind of just staying in one place. So, and also the sounds, they feel a little bit karaoke-ish. They kind of feel a little bit template-y sounding. So I think I wanted to hear a little bit more dynamic sounds along with it. But I'm kind of a sucker for funk, though. I love funk so much. I don't know, something about it just resonates in my bones so quickly. Like those drums feel very, very fake to me. They don't feel like they have a live drummer. I need to get another electronic drum set. That'll be probably the next thing I invest in. But yeah, I really need to feel that live drummer feel to this. I don't really feel that right now. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much my notes on that one. All right, Deborah, you have one here.
Nothing feels worse than giving someone your all and in return you get a broken heart. But I found a solution, discovered the perfect remedy. I sabotage before you get to me. Oh, why when everything is going beautiful, you gotta go fuck it up? Why when everything is going beautiful, you gotta go fuck it up?
Got to be careful with the bad words. The licensing business, they will ask you for that clean version. So if you are going to submit this to somebody, you will have to create a clean version of it. So just so you know.
Why can't you and I be simple? I just wish this could be simple. Why when every...
Your sound kind of reminds me of rockabilly a little bit. And I would say go a little bit harder in that rockabilly direction. Because right now this one has a little bit of rockabilly to it, but it also has just some kind of, I don't know what you'd call thrash rock or something like that in there as well. I think if you went to the rockabilly sound, your voice sounds like it would really work well with rockabilly. And if you guys do some more like traditional rockabilly stuff, I would say go in that direction. That's one of those things that you will definitely see some interest in that. And especially since you guys are a live band, you actually recording this stuff. Very rare. I think you're maybe the first submission of somebody who actually recorded a full band performing. Everybody else has been doing, you know, what I do, which is the keyboard synthetic fake stuff, but trying to make it sound real. So if you can actually have an authentic, real sounding thing, you really can stand out in this business. But I think this thrash rock, I don't see a lot of use for that, but rockabilly, definitely, big time.
Think it's going beautiful. You gotta go fuck it up. I've been down this road before. Don't wanna run into another dead end where we can't even be good friends.
I want to hear a little bit more like low-end thud in your mix as well. I hear a lot of high-end stuff. It's not badly mixed, but I want to hear a little bit more of that low impact from your kick and your bass guitar for sure. So, all right, I'm going to do one more double check here, and I think that is all the new ones that I have. Yep, that is it, guys. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this. Yes, as you see on the page here, this is basically a sort of a taste of what you can get if you apply to join the syndicate, and I do accept you, of course. I am screening now. I didn't do that before, but as of the last couple of months, I've been there's an application that you'll have to fill out, and I do review every application, and only if I allow you to join us will you'll hear from me. If I have so many applications that I go through every day, I don't have a time to respond to everybody. But if I accept you, you'll hear from me within a day or two. I'm usually pretty fast to let you know. We'd love to have you join us. And this is kind of the stuff that we do in the syndicate is I do live reviews, or I do open reviews rather. And then once I start seeing some common things pop up with a lot of the members' tracks and through submissions as well, I start crafting homework assignments that really start to address those common issues so that people stop making those mistakes as often. So you guys can move on to that next level. How do I get my tracks to sound like, some of the tracks you guys heard today are just 10 out of 10. You probably are wanting to know, how do I get to that point? That's the whole point of the syndicate. That's what we do, is try to help you walk through the step-by-step process to get your track up to that level. Not only from myself, but we have some mentors in the group that are also incredible producers that put out production tutorials. I put out production tutorials. We have recommended sounds. We have the licensing opportunities. We have homework assignments. I mean, everything we can possibly do, and it seems like every other month there's new things that are being added into the syndicate to make it even better and better. So it's a really cool program to be a part of. Obviously, I think it's the best thing that's on planet Earth in terms of producers that want to get involved and get profitable and see results with music licensing. I pride myself on getting you guys results, helping you achieve results for yourselves so that you can start becoming a power player in this business as well. Make sure you leave a like if I reviewed your track, or if you just liked watching and following along. I will try to do more of these more often than I have. I know that I promised this, and I'm very late on that delivery, so I'm very well aware of that. Thank you guys. I apologize for that really massive delay. But we got a couple of hours of reviews in. I don't know how many tracks we went through, probably 20 or 30 tracks today, maybe even more. Actually, I'll have to count them up. Thank you guys so much. Please leave a like, and remember, definitely subscribe. Share this information with other producers that you might think might be needing this kind of feedback and this kind of information for their licensing career, or just music career in general.